First of all, Mr. Ambassador, thank you for accepting our interview and welcome to Radio Free Europe.
Thank you for having me.
The Republic of Moldova has been a candidate country for EU accession for 8 months, we can say, 8 to 7. So in summer, the European Commission submitted 9 conditions, 9 recommendations to Moldovan authorities. So is Brussels satisfied with the way that these conditions are fulfilled here?
What we have seen in the months since the Commission opinion and the Council conclusions is that Republic of Moldova really has made a lot of effort to work on these 9 points. There has been an action plan that has been drafted by the government in August and which then goes into detail on what exactly the government intends to do to fulfill those 9 points, because each of them has more detail. And then this January we saw that the European Integration Commission, under the leadership of the President, also decided to shorten some of the deadlines for the implementation of the points that were in that action plan. So I think this is a very good sign of the commitment of the Republic of Moldova that you are moving moving forward with those issues where progress needs to be made, because for us it's not only important that things are being done, but also how they are being done. So in other words, it's both about the dialogue with civil society, whether the civil society is being engaged in those decisions. So, for instance, this is also, in fact, one of the 9 points that has been highlighted by the European Commission. Or when it comes to sensitive pieces of legislation, that these drafts are being also coordinated with your international partners. In particular, for instance, when it comes to human rights, and that the opinion of the Venice Commission is taken on board. Because obviously you can do things faster if you do not consult broadly, but then the quality of the process may suffer. And this is something that we would like to avoid, because if this is not done properly, then sometimes it is things that you can just have one chance of doing it, and sometimes you can have more chances, but that would mean that in the subsequent years you might need to amend the legislation, which could have been done better had it been done in a slightly more gradual way. So it's really about finding this delicate balance of not losing the momentum of your candidacy, but also at the same time not losing the quality of the process.
So it's both. It's about the speed and about the quality of the reforms.
Yes, because for us both elements matter, because you can't really have the quality if you are moving at a too rapid speed.
But judging by this own plan of the authorities to the EU accession, the authorities are a little bit behind?
You can't really be behind, because all the deadlines are decided by the government. This action plan has been decided by the government. We have appreciated as the European Commission, as the European Union, the fact that this action plan exists and that is being implemented, but we have never said that you need to do this by this date or that date. So I think that what is important that you have this strong movement forward, that you can see that things are moving forward, and indeed they are moving forward. But for us, if you have to choose between quality and speed, we would suggest going for the quality.
What complaints does Brussels have to the way that Moldovan authorities implement the reform?
Well, we can't really speak about complaints, because first, we haven't had the chance to have a written opinion on these processes, and also it is a very short time frame as well. So many things just will take time. We knew that they will take more time already at the moment when the Commission opinion came out, because if you read the opinion, then you see that there are things that, well, you can't do overnight, because, for instance, if you need to build track record So it means that it's not something that you just accomplish one milestone and then you can tick off the box that this has been achieved. If it's about having a credible track record, for instance, in the judiciary on the cases on corruption. Coming back to your question, we have some complaints. This is the only word of caution that we have had, which we discussed, that not to rush things. On the pre-vetting, we have seen quite a lot of frustration that this process is not faster, but this is an area where you exactly have this one shot to do things right, because you can't do such fundamental changes every 3 years, for instance. So, and that is why also basing on the experience that has been accumulated elsewhere, we see it is important that this process, even if it takes time, that it is done properly so that you achieve a good result. And I think you are getting to a good result. I call the pre-vetting a success story in the making.
So talking about pre-vetting, the process is a little bit delayed. So how much will matter this delay when Moldova wants to move to the next European stage, for example?
I think that you will need clearly to have this process in place. Again, this is not about meeting some particular deadline, but having this process, because the pre-vetting is the first stage of many. Because pre-vetting is only about the members of the Superior Council or Magistracy and Superior Council or Prosecution. But then also the work with the prosecutors and with the judges will go on a broader phase, and that's why it's so important that this foundation is laid right, that the process of pre-vetting is concluded, and that these new other mechanisms can be put in place.
You told me earlier that this pre-vetting process is a success, is a story of success for Moldova. So can you explain why do you think like that?
As I said, I call it success story in the making, meaning that it's not a success story yet, but if you continue the way it has been going, I'm pretty confident that you have every chance to make it a success story.
A draft report of the European Commission from last summer shows that the Republic of Moldova is behind Georgia and Ukraine in the implementation of the European policies. How can you explain this situation?
When the European Commission was preparing the opinion on Moldova's application of country status, it was evaluating the political criterion and the economical criterion, and only sketched upon the acquis, so the EU legislation on all the areas, because this opinion had to be prepared in a very short time frame. So, and then it was also decided that afterwards there would be a separate document analyzing how much the Moldovan legislation meets the EU legislation. And I can't really comment on what has been out there, whether Moldova is better or not better than other countries, because we haven't seen that document. But what we also already know is that indeed there's quite a lot of work to be done for a number of reasons. One is that perhaps this has not been such a priority for governments before this one to have the European integration as quickly as possible. So perhaps there has been not enough effort invested in the past. The other element is that this is, again, for us, not a matter of ticking off the box. This is about how ready a country is to be a full-fledged member of the European Union. In each of these domains, more than 30 domains. So this is a very big commitment and a very big work. So from my perspective, it's more like a starting point. Because if you look at the European accession process, it's not a sprint distance. You are going in a marathon. So this is something that you will be having this dialogue year after year, and you will be seeing these progress reports, and what will be important to see how these evaluations are developing. the same set of evaluation principles that are applied to all candidate countries. So I think that quite possibly, once you look at the evaluations, you will see that there you are doing better in this area than that Balkan country, or worse in that area than this country of your closer region. But this is, again, not a competition. So this is about Republic of Moldova, about how you as a country are preparing for EU membership. And this is a process where you just need to have this long-term commitment, because this will take quite a lot of time to prepare. From our side, of course, we are ready to support this process. We are having our expertise.
The lack of administrative capacities is another huge problem here in the Republic of Moldova. So without people, there will be nowhere to will do the European reform. How do you think this problem could be solved?
I think that there are several tracks to this. One, I think it is important to implement salary reform, because one of the reasons why the civil service has not enough capacity is that it is difficult to attract people with very low salaries, especially if you're not looking for just some people, but qualified people, and also that you want people who are not corrupt and who not want to be corrupt. And of course, everybody who is qualified and does not want to be corrupted then needs also to have proper remuneration. We see that there are some first encouraging steps in this direction. For instance, I think it is very good that there are the possibilities to increase the salaries of those people who will be directly involved in the European integration. From our side, we are also looking at ways how we can support this. For instance, in Ukraine, we have had a project where there has been additional people brought from outside into the ministries. Right now there is a pilot project here in the Republic of Moldova carried out by the EBRD, and we'll see how this goes, and if the government is satisfied how this project is being carried out, then we can also support it from our side. And also I think it is about attracting young people. We have also been supporting that.
The Republic of Moldova is a candidate country to EU, but the Republic of Moldova hasn't yet joined with the European sanctions against Russia, who is waging a war against Ukraine. So in the summer, the European Union showed understanding towards Moldova on this subject. I want to ask if is the Union just as understanding now, because the Moldovan authorities still haven't joined to these sanctions.
We still have this understanding of the reasons why the Republic of Moldova has not joined some of the sanctions, but at the same time, of course, we are looking forward to having increased alignment with the EU sanctions, because, well, exactly, the country is a candidate country for EU membership, so joining sanctions is also one way of clearly showing the commitment to the EU values. But we have already said that we also understand that the Republic of Moldova is in a particular situation with particular vulnerabilities. So we have understood the reasons why the Republic of Moldova has not joined the sanctions in the past. But again, we would be happy to see more of alignment with EU sanctions here. And we also see that there is ongoing discussion in the country, also among the politicians, on how ready or not the country is to do more on this.
The optimists are hoping for an accelerated process of opening negotiation for the accession negotiation for the Republic of Moldova. But you have the experience of your country to the European path, and you know well the stages of the EU accession. So how justified is Moldova's EU accessions hopes?
Accession or negotiations?
Accession and negotiations, of course.
Well, first, accession clearly is something that will take years. Well, there have been estimates that it could be until 2030, and the estimates that it could be several tens of years. In fact, that will depend on how this existing commitment to European integration is maintained. If there is a clear motivation by the population and by the politicians to keep that track, then this time will be shorter. Because here I can refer to my own country's experience. Well, when Latvia wanted to join the European Union, the governments kept changing, but irrespective of what was the government, it always had a very clear commitment to European integration. But we have also seen other countries for whom this candidate country status has been for a very long time, because sometimes you have a government which attaches importance to European integration, sometimes you have less, and then of course these evaluations on your progress with a key, well, just can stagnate. And that's why the answer is really in the hands of the Moldovan people and the Moldovan politicians. When it comes to the opening of negotiations, of course, this will be the next stage of the relationship, and that depends on how you will be advancing with in particular the 9 points that have been highlighted in the Commission opinion. So the sooner you manage to get to the European Council recognizing that you have indeed implemented those 9 steps, the faster you will get to the negotiation stage.